The trail is a metaphor for change. Although hiking, and specifically endurance hiking, is now a big part of my day-to-day, it's not just about exercise. It's about transformation. Each step is a movement towards clarity, purpose, and identity. But movement is one thing, sharing insights gained is another. As a U.S. Marine veteran, I created this space to help other veterans gain clarity, purpose, and identity. Let's walk this path together. This is Trail to Transformation.
Most people aren't broken, they're just dysregulated. Chronic stress, pain, anxiety, and burnout aren't mindset failures. They're nervous systems stuck in survival. I'm Leland Holgate, combat veteran and neuroscientist, and I created the Welcome Home method to help people rewire their nervous systems with breath. To go deeper, visit thewillfulwarrior.com.
Well, welcome everybody back to the Trail to Transformation. I am Laura Cross, and I am the co-host supposed to be sitting in for Keith. As many of you know, we've been doing these episodes as Keith was going out on the trail, and I will tell you, we have a special, very much unexpected, but welcome back guest. Keith, he did leave at the end of March to go out on the Appalachian Trail, and came across some hiccups, so he came back, but he is headed back out. So we wanted to give you an update and hear from Keith as far as what he's experienced so far and some of the things that he's come across in his journey of hiking the Appalachian Trail. So Keith, welcome back.
Laura, thank you so much. I do appreciate that. And thank you and all the other friends, colleagues, all you out there who are sub-hosting for me. I totally appreciate it. And more than that, I really hope that you're having fun with the show itself. And so you're bringing in guests or doing it yourself. Totally appreciate it. And so, yeah, Laura says, I did have some hiccups. And so I hope, in this next 20 to 22 minutes, let's talk about that. Let's talk about some of the initial challenges and the problems, both in being on the trail and then how that impacted me psychologically and psychiatrically.
Well, absolutely, because I mean, there's a lot of logistics to it. I mean, I know you've been doing a lot of prep work. I know you've gone through ChatGPT that tells you all about the trail and all the other stuff, and that's great to prepare. But I'm sure there's things that come up that are different when you're like actually there. I know you're hiking with Ashley, who's a service dog, but not a licensed service dog. So I know you're going to have some other challenges and stuff coming up. But tell us kind of what that was like. I mean, I know from the get-go, because we first started getting pictures when you were first going. So tell us a little bit about how it started out and kind of what came up as you were hiking.
So in preparation, so we'll take a couple steps back and move forward quickly. I did have a lot of conversations with ChatGPT, and one of the things I wanted to do, because well, I'm running through my words and I don't want to. What I wanted to do was on the back end to see if this AI technology really knew how to provide some clean and clear insight as to how to actually do something. And I want to stop there because every year the Appalachian Trail Conservancy and people who are familiar with the thru hiking community and all that, they publish a book. They publish a companion book, a guidebook, basically, start to finish, and including, the game plan, basically, rules of engagement, trust your intuition, how to not be friendly with bears legitimately, and all the basics, including elevation gain and drop, where you find shelter, where you're gonna find camp, where you're gonna find water, where's the next town. So all the logistical elements are in a published book. So I just wanted to make a comparison of, what AI would do and what people do. The first thing I want to say to everybody out there, trust what people do. Because even though AI can tell me where the towns are, what's next, and what I should be preparing for, it's really poor in the human experience. And the human experience is what matters here. Because everything about this hike, this through hike, is really about stepping on trail, engaging in the environment, interacting with other people, and logically and logistically really planning that hike not only mile by mile, but sometimes step by step, because you may read, okay, well, your next mile or two is going to be an elevation gain of 600 feet, um, or 1,000 feet, or whatever that's going to be. But it isn't specifically telling you, well, that's a 30% grade, or that's a 45% grade, or you're literally climbing up the face of a mountain. And those details really do matter.
Oh, I would imagine so, especially if you're going to start going straight up. I mean, again, you have your pup, you've got this, what do you got, a 30, 40 pound pack? I know you start at 60, but I know you figured out some ways, but things that you've learned of how to trim that down too.
Hmm.
But it's a lot of stuff to be doing that to, especially if you're expected to go like almost straight up. That's tough.
Well, we don't do that until we get to Mount Katahdin, so that's a way off. But there were series like, so for the first, there's what we call the, I'm going to get it right, the approach trail. And the approach trail isn't the actual Appalachian Trail. It is actually getting you from Amicalola Falls, and you get your picture taken under the infamous arc. You climb up Amicalola Falls, and you access the approach trail, and that's literally what it's called, the approach trail. And altogether, from Amicalola Falls to the Springer Mountain peak, it's about, I think it's like 8.5 or 8.9, depending on who's measuring it. And the approach trail itself is up in, and Michelola Falls is hideous. And I've talked to some people who have done this over and over again, and they typically say the second, third, and all the sequential times after you do it, they ain't climbing to Michelola Falls. They're driving to, because it is and we didn't actually do the steps because the trail master said it's kind of dangerous for dogs to climb it. So they allowed us to gain access and climb what's called the service road. They're actually redoing the service road on the back end. Um, Safer, but no less treacherous, because it's a 45, 50 degree, slope, and that's just hideous when you're carrying quite literally a 40 to 45 pound
I can feel
rock.
my calf muscles just hearing you explain
Yeah.
that and describe
So
that. But it's nice that you've got people that can do that and make that available, for you, especially when you're just learning. So yeah.
yeah, yeah. And so the first couple days were tough, and so I packed heavier than it needed to be. So I did go out with about a 45-pound ruck. Um, Ashley was with me throughout. Um, like I said, the grades were up and down, and even the climb up to Springer Mountain was no joke. And initially, I was anxious the first day, anxious to the point of being nauseous. So I actually didn't eat a whole lot, which made the whole day one, or day zero basically, because you got to get to Springer Mountain, hideous. And so by the time I hit the base point where you're climbing up Springer Mountain, I had no gas in the tank left. I was like just depleted of all kind of energy and still nauseous, so not wanting to eat. And so I left. By the time I got there, my trail name was Soldier, because that's been the adopted trail name locally and at First Landing State Park. I was just calling myself Old Man with a Dog by the time I got up there, because that's about what I felt. I felt like an old man walking his dog, and because it was just horrible. I was just depleted of all kind of energy, all kind of motivation. Was just gone after the first day. It was just horrible.
Yeah, I can only imagine. So, before we move forward, have you figured anything out that's going to help you get past that? Like, speaking to yourself more positively or focusing more on the soldier that you are and not the other. I mean, tunes. I mean, there's different things. Have you thought about anything that you can possibly do to help keep that motivation up?
So I went another day, um, and things got increasingly worse. And so day two, logistically, day two, um, the morning wasn't good. Breakfast ran right through me. So I'm not going to get into details. It's not a good way to start any adventure, especially when you're, 3,000, 4,000 feet in the air. Um, I wasn't as nauseous or anxious anymore. I was just exhausted because I didn't sleep the night before. And I'm using the tried and true, the accordion sleep pad, which is about yay thick, and only because it's lightweight. And maybe it would work, maybe it didn't work. It didn't work. Um, so not helping me. The trail itself at this point is very narrow. There were people coming southbound, or at least coming, my way. I'm going northbound. Um, Very few people on the trail at this point. So we're talking about easily, and we're recording this on April 24th, and so a month ago. So a lot of isolation to be expected, but from somebody who has PTSD and psychosis, I wasn't prepared for how that isolation, just lack of the normal, and I live in rural, not so much rural, but urban, suburban area, Eastern Virginia. So I'm used to the cars, and the rain is raining right now. So I'm used to noise. I'm used to some kind of
Right.
consistent noise. You get out there, and that all goes by the wayside. So it's a completely different environment, completely different experience. Now, I have been out in Grandfather Mountain. I've climbed Grandfather Mountain. I've climbed Callaway Peak. So, in the back of my mind, I know that this isolation, this type of environment exists. I've done it before, and it's actually rather fun. But I also know that at the end of the day, I'm going back to a cabin, going to take a shower, and going to sleep in a bed. So there's a psychological prep to say, okay, I'm going to do the hard work. I'm going to go home and relax. Or I'm going to go to a cabin and relax. Come back out and do some more adventuring the next day. When you're through hiking, or you're taking yourself through this trek about, I don't see home. I don't see a bed for maybe days or weeks on end. Um, Unless you do it, I think you said that earlier, unless you kind of really have done it and know what the experience is going to be like, you don't know. I don't know what I don't know. And I kept on going in with that idea. That wasn't the best way to approach this. It wasn't.
No, it's kind of like because you don't have that security.
Yeah.
You don't have that feeling of security anymore, knowing that you'll have a roof over your head and you got this and you can, recover. So if I can only imagine if you're already kind of got the head going and spinning, and now you don't have the security of that, you're still out in the environment. Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you do with that?
Um, to make matters worse, at the end of day two, my phone dies, so I've got no actual and my phone chargers, I actually purchased cheap ones, $20 ones. You put AA batteries in, they're supposed to charge really slow, but they charge you overnight. They should charge up the phone. Not the one, and its backup didn't work. So I'm out here with her, not doing well. Voices in my head I could clearly hear, and I've got no way of contacting anybody the morning of day three. And so early in the morning, just as dawn was coming, reaching the mountains, there were some good Samaritan hikers that were able to make a phone call to, and they just chose, and I'm going to give them a shout out real quick, and maybe at some point, hopefully they'll do an advertisement here for the show. Uh, is it Long Mountain? Long Mountain Lodge. I believe I got that right. Long Mountain Lodge, and I cannot pronounce the name of the city to save my life. But they were a lifesaver. He had a room available. He was willing to come pick me up at the next gap, and so I was able to go back, put a roof over my head, get some real food in me, get some real rest, and kind of think about. And I actually, I even texted you once I was kind of in,
Hmm.
and the following day, and kind of settling into me again, and basically, we'll use the word I failed. Everything that I prepped for. I know my body could physically do it, but everything else surrounding it just imploded.
Well,
And
I know, and I have to say, I know that's the first thing you texted me was I failed. I'm like, well, you didn't fail. That you've learned, you're learning some lessons, and you're learning, and it's a different experience. I don't ever look at failure as failure. It's a lesson learned, and you didn't know, like you said, you don't know what you don't know until you got out there. And regardless, I completely admire and commend you for even taking a trek on like this, like this, and you're not done because you're not, you are going to go back, you are going to complete it. So, but yeah,
so
absolutely.
what I was able to do was kind of, once my body re-regulated, and but fundamentally, I wasn't going to get picked up until Sunday. So I had some days to kind of, I wasn't going to just sit there in the lodge all day. So I asked the innkeeper. I really wasn't even thinking about getting back specifically on the Appalachian Trail. I just wanted to get, Ashley some exercise, me some exercise, so we just weren't, watching TV all day. Um, However, the universe worked. He said, well, from this gap to this gap, and it was like from Cooper Gap to Woody Gap on the trail. It wasn't, this incredible hike up and down. It was just like a couple miles, three and a half, roughly. Um, get some exercise in, and you would be on the trail, so it wouldn't be this, another trail or another area. So got a shuttle, got there and back, and this was Friday. So I had rested a couple of days and went back out on Friday, and I felt good. It wasn't overly challenging. I knew I was coming back to, a roof over my head and some real food.
Right.
So it felt good, and I'm thinking, that inspiration is there again. I'm going to get back on the trail. So I asked the shuttle, the taxi driver, "Are you available tomorrow?" Which would have been Saturday, and again, I'm leaving Sunday. So my thought was, well, let's cover the distance from where I left to Cooper, or actually to Woody Gap, to kind of cover that space, because I'm thinking now I can really come back. Let's reset, replan, come back, and continue where I left off. And so what I did is on Saturday, and just for those who know the trail, it was from Gooch Gap. I got off at Horse Gap. So what I did is I actually hiked southbound to Horse Gap and back to Gooch Gap, which is roughly 14 miles. It was 7 and 7. And then the day before, I had made it to Woody Gap. So I had covered all that space, which isn't a whole lot logistically, but I'm not at Horse Gap anymore. I'm further north, and at this point, when I go back in 5 days, I'm in North Carolina. So as long as I can get real sleep at night, and even if it's just for 5 hours, this is doable. This is completely doable.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, and I like I said, I think it's tremendous, and I know we're going to be running out of time. We're going to be running at 26 minutes goes so fast. We got about 6 minutes left. So, but what else did you want to make sure that you let people know and you dress? Because I know you definitely learned some things along the way.
Well, because the show is really focused on helping people, veterans specifically, deal with some of the issues around PTSD, psychosis, and holistic healing. Um, as an addition to maybe traditional therapy and psychiatric treatment, one of the things that I learned really quickly, um, And this is not just for about being on the trail, but even in your normal, wherever normal is. So whether it's a house or an apartment, where whoever you live with and wherever you live at, um, the daily things of keeping yourself healthy are so important. And so one, sleep. So find a way of getting. I know PTSD. You deal with nightmares and you deal with overwhelm, and I do. But when you're sleep deprived, that makes everything so much worse. So that's one. So find a way. I have to find a way. So what I did is I purchased an air mattress. Actually, I've tested it a bit. I'm not on the ground. I'm not on the floor, so that feels good. It's not perfect. It's not a perfect scenario. But what I'm going to do is bring both the air mattress and the accordion, the fold out mattress, to kind of get myself at least 3 inches off the ground.
Hmm.
Um, Hopefully for a better sleep experience. But the first thing you need is regular, good, restful sleep every day. The other thing I'm going to say is food. Food became an essential. Even yeah, food is an essential. The right food is an essential. So, and the balance of food is an essential. So, I went in specifically with, okay, I'm going to do um, protein bar in the morning for breakfast to kind of get everything going. Trail mix for lunch, and an MRE for dinner was kind of my system. I've thrown that out the window. Now, and that's not to say they're not on me on the trail, but I've also added um, fig bars, other types of trail mix, more fruits involved. Um, what I lacked was carbohydrate, so I'm bringing bagels with me, or at least some type of carbohydrate to sustain me from morning to noon. And so I'm adding different types of foods because what I found was just limiting my food intake to certain things at certain calories wasn't working either. So now that I'm beyond the nauseousness, that's good. And then different pacing. And although this is specific to the trail because I'm exerting a lot of energy and I'm carrying a ruck, most people aren't doing that on a daily basis. Actually, how you pace your day, how you level your energies throughout the day became really important on the trail, but it's no less important even if you're doing, working from home or going to work or on your normal day to day. How you pace your energies became really important. So I don't, when I reach like a 5 mile marker in or wherever I'm doing, I'm going to sit down for about 15 minutes and let my body literally take the ruck off. If there's a water source, of course, you're refilling your water bottles. Um, your pacing of your energy, pacing of your physical energy, your cognitive energy, your spiritual energy is actually a real thing. And it became very real on the trail. And so I have to logistically find a way of kind of say, okay, if 4 miles and I'm feeling, not quite right, and I got to stop for an energy bar or whatever that is, or for water, do it rather than pushing myself to, okay, let's get to the next campsite in a straight, because that's what I do now. We'll do a 12-mile hike in the morning, and we did that this morning. But I live on flat, I live eastern Virginia. It's still flat ground. So hiking for 4 straight hours, doing a 12-mile, walk, isn't it anything. But on the trail, when you're going up and down, when you're walking over rocks and branches and roots, tree roots, that's a whole different experience. So energy pacing, those three things were really, so energy pacing, food, and sleep are really essentials in terms of how to do this and do it more successfully.
Oh, I can just see it now. You're going to be so in tune on how to listen to your body and pay attention to your body because you have nothing but quiet. You don't have the noise, so you can actually go in and focus. So but I'm so glad you popped back in to share all of that with us. And I look forward to, I know you're going to be sending me pictures, and we're going to be doing a show at some point in time when you're about halfway through, whenever that may be. Yeah, I'm so glad you popped back in and to update everybody.
I
So,
appreciate it, Laura. Thank you so much. And
yeah.
I'm going to let you close out the show.
Okay. I know it's tough when it's your own show. But anyway, I want to thank you so much for coming in and sharing that with everybody. Everybody, we will keep you updated as Keith goes along on his journey. And, don't forget to support him. It is a great cause, bringing, his mission for bringing veteran suicide down to zero and bring that awareness to it. That's our main goal. So thank you. And we will see you next time. And as always, we will see you on the trail.
Imagine a world where every veteran finds a reason to keep going. That's the vision behind the Trail to Transformation Foundation. Help us make it real. Donate through the GoFundMe link. And as always, I'll see you on